evening and welcome to the New Mexico Philharmonic Wednesday Night Live. Tonight, my guest is an exciting clarinetist from Cochabamba, Bolivia, but she studied in Manhattan at the Manhattan School of Music, and now she is the principal clarinetist of the Sao Paulo Opera House. We're going to start our show by watching a video of Camila playing with her ensemble. They were playing Jennifer Higdon's Summer Shimmers for woodwind quintet and piano. Let's watch that. Pleasure of introducing Camila Barrientos. Good evening, Camila.
Hello, Roberto. It's such a pleasure to be here.
My pleasure to talk to you. We are in the same city, but unfortunately, you haven't been able to perform due to this craziness of the pandemic. So you basically have stayed home for the last year.
Basically, but I'm happy to be here. I think this technological ways to communicate have been certainly a blessing for musicians and for artists. So it's really great to be part of the New Mexico Phil Lives.
Well, it's our pleasure to have you here. We just heard Jennifer Higdon's Summer Shimmers for woodwind quintet and piano, and I mean this is an American composer. She's one of the most prolific and one of the most important American composers. How did you become acquainted with her music?
Well, I've always been a lover of contemporary music, right? And back when I lived in the US, I moved to Brazil 6 years ago. So I lived in the US from age 15 to 30. Not to give away my age.
I'm already doing the math here.
But I always loved contemporary music, and I used to play in this wonderful woodwind quintet, The City of Tomorrow, and it was with them that we recorded that wonderful sextet. And the quintet is dedicated to the presentation of contemporary music, and we did some wonderful things. We premiered Stockhausen's, pieces, Rotary. We
Wow.
did a lot of Barrio, so it was an exciting time.
Fantastic. I was reading your bio, and I always say this, I become acquainted with my own musicians through these shows, and I'm always so impressed by by the different trajectories. And you've been to so many different places. Now, you were born in Bolivia, and you went at a young age to study at the Manhattan School. Tell us a little bit about how do you went to the United States, and then you played in so many wonderful places.
Well, I am from Cochabamba, Bolivia, as you said in the beginning. I started playing the clarinet there, and actually my clarinet teacher in Bolivia was not a clarinetist; he was a trumpet player, and he was American, and he knew about the Interlochen Arts Academy. So when I was 14, I moved to Michigan to study there. I did all of high school there, in the Interlaken is between lakes, right? That's the meaning of the word. So, and it's probably one of the coldest places, at least in the US. No sun at least 10 months a year, but it was a wonderful place to study. And then from there, of course, I went to the Manhattan School of Music in New York, and I lived in New York for the rest of my time in the US.
And you've played in so many different places. You had experience performing with the NMPhil, among other major orchestras, and at Carnegie Hall, and in Europe, in so many different places. And how did you finally end up in Sao Paulo?
Well, it's a long story. I think part of it is destiny, but my time in New York when I was a freelance, I had the chance to play with some of the most amazing orchestras, of course, the NMPhil. I played a lot with the Miami Symphony in Miami. I played with the St. Paul Chamber Orchestra. So I think one of the fun things about freelancing was that I was able to do these things while performing crazy contemporary music. But of course, there comes a time when you want to settle, right? And I met my husband, my partner, Bruno Lorenzetto, who's a wonderful trumpet player. We met during the a festival, the Youth Orchestra of the Americas, and it was a very strong connection. And I lived in the U.S. for so long that I felt the need of coming back to Latin America. And of course, the Orquesta Sinfónica Municipal here at the Opera House is such a wonderful orchestra that when when there was an opening for principal clarinet, I was like taken, I was like very motivated to take this audition. And Sao Paulo is a very exciting city, right? It's not
Oh,
easy
yeah.
to move away from New York, but Sao Paulo is a great place to go after New York. It has a mix of the craziness, the vibrancy of New York, but also it's much more sprawl. It has the Brazilian flavor, the people. So it was, it was stability, but also wanting to come back to something that perhaps was more familiar to my own culture as well.
Well, speaking of orchestral music, and now your position as principal clarinet of the Sao Paulo Orchestra, we're going to watch the next video, which is an excerpt from Rachmaninoff's Symphony No. 2, which has one of the most famous and one of the most beautiful clarinet solos in all symphonic repertoire. So let's watch that, an excerpt from the slow movement of Rachmaninoff's Symphony No. 2 with the solos of Camila Barrientos. That was really gorgeous, Camila. You know, I'm like, why didn't I not conduct that concert? You know, that was one of the only concerts I didn't conduct, but it sounded so beautiful, so gorgeous. Do you use the B flat clarinet for that or the A clarinet?
I actually use the A clarinet. I think it has a tone that he wrote it for A clarinet, so I think it has a darker color
Mhm.
almost that I love, and that's it's such a special moment.
It is. It is. You know, this is speaking of A clarinet, B flat clarinet. Is always. I mean, these are the two instruments that basically you use. I mean, rarely there's a C clarinet also, but why exactly do you think composers choose or one or the other? Is this really more related to the keys that they're composing in, or the really the timbre or the quality of the sound that they're looking for?
I think mostly I would say is the timbre. The B flat clarinet and the A clarinet have completely different personalities, and you wouldn't expect that, right? Because it's just half a tone apart, right? But the A clarinet has a much darker sound. I can think of like the Schumann fantasy pieces that are definitely, they need that timbre that's a little darker, and I think with Rachmaninoff too is the same kind of extra color that composers I think wanna give to the music, right? Another one is Mahler, of course, that uses all clarinets in all keys, right? But I think there is something to it. C now we don't use the C clarinet so much, but it does have like a more shrill sound, right?
Has it ever happened to you that during a rehearsal that you pick up the wrong instrument and you start playing as, oops, wrong instrument?
Yes, it's the worst feeling. Luckily, it's never happened to me in a concert. But yes, it happens. I remember the person that reminds me of this problem is my teacher at Manhattan School, Mark Nuccio, who's now in the Houston Symphony, and he used to label his clarinets, like A clarinet, B flat, because when you have to change really fast, of course you don't,
Right.
they all look the same, right? And sometimes you do have to make like very, very fast changes, and you need to just have that information right away.
Well, luckily I don't have that problem with the different batons that I use, you know. But I remember a funny story with the Rachmaninoff's Piano Concerto Number 2, and also in the slow movement, there is a beautiful clarinet solo, and while the clarinet is playing the main theme, the piano is playing the arpeggios and beautiful, melody. So I went to this performance where the pianist had a complete memory slip, and the pianist started playing all of these weird notes, with the right hand, and which sounded completely, awkward and on another key. And I was speaking to the clarinetist after the concert because I knew him, and he was like, I didn't know what was going on. I thought that I had the wrong clarinet because he was playing something. He was listening, the pianist playing something completely different, that he thought that he was the wrong one. But it was actually the pianist that had the memory slip. And it lasted for about 30 seconds, but it seemed endless, right? When
I
these
think
things
that
happen.
piece, like it's already tricky because of the rhythm, right? It's very slow for the slow melody of the clarinet, and the piano just has a thousand
Those
notes.
triplets.
So yeah, and it's very tricky. Poor clarinetist.
Now, Camila, you've been doing something extraordinary during the pandemic time. You've created this incredible project called Música para Respirar, music to breathe. And you already won an award for this project. And it's happening here in Brazil, in other countries in Latin America. Tell us about Música para Respirar.
So thanks for mentioning this, Roberto, because this is actually one of the things that has really brought a lot of meaning to my life this last year. And I am the co-founder of the Bolivian Chamber Music Society, which we will also be seeing a video of that organization. And in the, when the pandemic hit, we were, as you were also, and I think all of the musicians and artists have really been questioning what's our role in this time that is such critical, right? That we're questioning. We haven't been able to function as we normally did, right? I mean, the last piece we played together was Mahler 3, right? It was just like humongous orchestra. It was like this, so how do you go from that to not being able to go to your work, right? And that was a question I asked myself, and I brought this with the Bolivian Chamber Music Society, and our answer was to create this project that basically it's a new way of experiencing classical music without the limitations of the concert halls, and it delivers personalized concerts by the phone or by any other device. And in the beginning, it was a bit of an experiment. We launched it just in Bolivia in August of last year. And for a week, we have up to 30 musicians available 24 hours a day, right? And anybody can order one of these concerts. They just have to send us their name and their number on our media accounts. And within 30 minutes, one of our musicians contacts them and plays a mini concert. So it was a bit of an experiment, but the first week we had 360 requests for concerts. And now, this year we won the Alumni Enterprise Award by the Music Academy of the West, and we're presenting 4 weeks of Música para Respirar. We're actually in the middle of a week of Música para Respirar, and which means that I've played already today. I started playing at 8 in the morning. I just finished right before this. Yeah, but Roberto, it's such a beautiful experience because you play, one of the things is like you play to one person, so you get to talk to them. You get to see their faces, they tell you what they experience. So it's like another way of making music.
Right. Well, it's so beautiful. And now we're going to watch a video with some of the visits of some of these performances that you have done to many of these patients, yes? Música para respirar.
Hola, vamos a llamar ahora a los chicos del hogar, a ver qué nos dicen. Estamos llamando. Hola, buenas tardes. Hola niños. Paola, ¿no? Sí, mi nombre es Paola, mucho gusto. Con ustedes la música se llama Viento.
Wow, that was so beautiful and so touching, Camila. You know, congratulations. And, you know, one of the most beautiful and creative initiatives I have seen during the pandemic times. How did it all start?
Roberto, it was kind of a collective idea of the Bolivian Chamber Music Society. We thought we were very inspired by a project actually in the U.S. that is called Project Music Heals Us, that is directed mainly to hospitals. But when we thought of doing something similar in Latin America, of course, the hospitals aren't that you know, they were overwhelmed especially during the beginning of the pandemic. Now they are again, but we wanted to, you know, kind of adapt it to our reality here. And since we launched, we've done over 4,000 concerts for 6,000 people. And
Wow.
past boundaries too. We've presented concerts in over 46 countries. So it's been really, really great to be able to stay active and, you know,
And how many
really play.
musicians participate in the project?
The Bolivian Chamber Music Society right now is 11 musicians, but every week of Música para Respirar, we have up to 30 musicians. So of course, I've invited many of my colleagues at the orchestra here and also in the US. And it's been, you know, one of the great things is now you can do it from your home. So you just need a good, you know, internet connection, and then you can just offer these concerts, and they're very accessible, and really, I feel like we're really democratizing access to classical music, which is wonderful.
That's wonderful. Well, cheers to you and to Música para Respirar.
Salud.
Fantastic. Salud. So, Camila, you are married to a trumpet player, Bruno, who lives with you. And now, are you both able to practice at home, or you have to set up different times to practice? How does it work at home with the clarinet and the trumpet?
You know, we've in Sao Paulo, we have a really great apartment. We live like on the corner of, you know, it's a corner building, so we don't have neighbors, you know, and we have a room for music, and we play at different times. But it's very different because when we were in New York, when we lived in New York, of course, we lived in a tiny, tiny apartment on Claremont Avenue. And then, you know, we had to play in the living room. And then, you know, I would play this like really crazy contemporary pieces. And then he would say like, no, the clarinet is way worse than the trumpet. No, but we've gone through many phases. And now, you know, we really do a good job of just separating time and finding, or, you know, if somebody's practicing, then somebody else is on the computer, and we're very good at that.
Well, that's fantastic. Listen, it's been so wonderful to be with you, to talk to you tonight, and to have you with our New Mexico Philharmonic Wednesday Night Live. We have a great orchestra in Albuquerque. Albuquerque is one of the most beautiful places, so I really truly hope that you have a chance to visit us one of these days. And we're hoping that we'll be back in the fall, you know, on stage, back to our normal lives, our regular concerts with a wonderful audience. And I'm sure they would love also to have a chance to get to know you and get to hear you play. So thank you so much, Camila. It's been such a great pleasure to talk to you tonight.
Roberto, I just want to thank you for this, you know, chance. I love that there's a bridge between New Mexico and Brazil. I think we need more of this type of bridges. And I was, you know, talking to you. I've never been to New Mexico, but I've already seen that have many classmates that are in the orchestra from Manhattan School. And I really hope the orchestra can come back soon. And that, of course, I would love to visit and to see all the public there, the audience.
Well, it's going to be a pleasure to have you in Albuquerque anytime soon. So thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. Thank you, Matt Hart, our production manager, who directs all of these shows. Thank you so much. And to end our show, we have one more video. Now we get to watch and listen to both Camila and Bruno, her husband, who is a trumpet player. And they're going to be performing Silvestre Revueltas Ocho por Radio. So let's watch that now. And thank you so much. Don't forget, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay happy. And I'll see you next week. Good night, everyone.
Salud.